everybody.
So exciting. It's Friday. Welcome, 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 WomanUP community. It's update day. I know so many of you look forward to this. I look forward to this. And we have another amazing special guest today. We have Burton, who's going to be joining us at the half point of the show to give her wisdom. As usual, we love to kind of talk about what's going on in the community as everyone joins us. So for those of you who have been running for appointed elected positions in Women's Council across the country for NAR, all of the above, congratulations to everyone who won. We do not have a list, but we know that it was a long road and that a lot of you had to pivot into doing things virtually. So congratulations to all of you. As usual, we're going to have Leslie share an economic update here in a minute. There are some WomanUP community updates I want to make sure that all of you are aware of. And I know we've told everyone that the event is not going to be face-to-face in person in September, but we still want you to save those dates because we are working on an amazing virtual experience. We will promise to share more information on that soon, but there are some things that are happening between now and September. The book club is happening once a month. We have a new book. This month's book is Untamed. I'll drop the link into the event, which is happening next Wednesday. We're having the book club discussion. We're going to do it on Zoom. It will not be live, so you definitely need to register for that if you want to have a chat about that. Glennon Doyle is a hoot of a writer. So if you have not read this book or listened to it on Audible, it is a good one. She is spunky, spunky, spunky. We also have the mentor program. So we haven't talked a lot about that the last few weeks because everyone has been hunkered down trying to figure out what their new normal is. But now is the time, as you are trying to figure out what next month and the month after that look like. If you need a mentor who has gone the path before you, check out the mentor program. It is in the tab section on the Facebook group. If you have trouble finding that, just let me know and I will help you. And then as always, we've got our awesome ways to share your voice. The first is to shine a light and give tribute to another woman. If there is a woman in your world who has really risen above, who has risen from the ashes, who is shining lights all over the place, who is slaying leadership, please go to IamWomanUp.com/shine-a-light and write a tribute to her. Those are so much fun to read. If you have a story that you want to share, then of course, we have the share your story. So that's IamWomanUp.com/share your story. That is how you get on the blog. That is how you get on Facebook Lives. That is how you get on the stage. That is how your story is shared and inspires others. So be bold, be brave, click on the link that I'll share below and rock and roll with sharing your story. Okay, so those are the big reminders for this week. Leslie, how are you doing? What's happening on your side of the country? Yes.
Well, I'm actually calling in from Florida here, and it is pouring down rain. So one of the benefits of being in an area with a lot of rain is you get a lot of greenery. So there's it's pretty cool. The other thing that's happening is right outside our kitchen window is a giant oak trees, and there are 5 separate heron nests, all with baby chicks. And so I feel like I'm living in kind of like Disney's Wildlife Adventure. So from the raft of Florida, I want to say hi to all my California friends and everyone else.
I love that. Herons are really popular here in the Seattle area too. I love how we're on opposite sides of this country, but we can experience so many beautiful bits of nature that
Right.
I don't look out my door and see the blue heron, but I see them flying. Yeah. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So what's happening in the economy? What are the big hitting points that you want to share with the world today?
Okay, what I thought I would do is just give the few highlights of the data that came out this week that gave us another marker on how the economy is doing. And then I'm also going to give you a thumbnail sketch of the April numbers for California. I want to say a few things about Lawrence Yune's excellent presentation to the National Association of Realtors this week, and then also let you know that by Monday I will have slides posted on the WomanUP blog that illustrate the points that I'm going to make today. So it's not going to be like a 60-page slide deck, but maybe 5 to 10 slides that kind of just illustrate what's changed, so we're not always repeating things. So in terms of data that came out this week, yesterday on Thursday, we had the initial claims for unemployment that come out once a week from all of the states. And even though the number of new applications was down for, I think, the fourth week in a row, it's still a very, very large number. We have 36.5 million people who have applied for unemployment insurance in the last 8 weeks. I mean,
Wow.
absolutely, absolutely stunning. During the Great Recession, it took 2 years for that number to reach 36 million. We have done in 8 weeks what last time it took 2 years to do.
We're
So
such
just
overachievers.
well, just to put it in relief, how painful and sudden and sharp this change has been. The other big number that came out this morning that everyone had been waiting for, that unfortunately exceeded expectations, was the 16.4% drop in retail sales, which is the largest month-to-month drop that has ever been recorded since they started tracking retail sales. So it was almost twice the revised 8.3% drop that we saw in March. So, half of March was good, was a strong economy. So we were expecting the April numbers to be lower, and they did not disappoint. So when you look at retail sales, it's essentially consumer spending. 68% of GDP is consumer spending. So that's why we're seeing such a big hit overall in the markets. When you look at the categories, the biggest gainer was groceries because we're all staying home and cooking. And the biggest drop was a 78% drop in clothing. Clothing stores, or the retail sector has been, hit by the online shopping for years now. I mean, this isn't a new phenomena,
Right.
but what you're seeing is an acceleration of that. And so you have companies like, J. Crew and Neiman Marcus having to, go into bankruptcy and then perhaps coming out the other end, perhaps not. It's just a little too soon to tell. So all of this on top of the Q1 GDP decline of 4.8%, you get a feeling for how big this is, how uncertain it is, and really how much pain there is in every single unemployed person. It's really tough. So that's kind of the macro deal. We are coming out on Monday with the press release on the April sales. So I want to give you a advance notice. So on an annualized basis, April sales were 277,440 in California. This is the lowest we've seen since the beginning of 2008. Year to year, it was off 30%. Month to month, it was off 25%. Year to date, now we're down 5.4%. And the worst is yet to come because our pending sales were down 43%. So this essentially pause, rough stop, hard stop
Right.
on the economy that started essentially with the shelter in place orders. And Deborah, even though this drop in the market is statewide and nationwide, what we're seeing is it is correlated very sharply with the shelter in place orders. So you have shut the economy down and people can't go out, and this is the repercussions. In California, the Bay Area dropped more within price categories. The the entry level that is much more interest rate sensitive, and rates are incredibly good right now, is more has been more resilient. The upper end that was hit earlier, portfolio losses and wealthier people, is hit the hardest. Now, what about prices? Well, I remember saying this so many times in '08 and '09 and 2010. Prices, or in 2006 and 7, prices are sticky on the way down until they're not. So, as long as sellers don't need to sell, one of the huge differentiators with the market today compared to back then is we still have a fairly tight inventory, and we're seeing prices hold up. The April median at 606,000 was down only 1% month to month. It was up 0.6% year over year. However, February and March, we were up 8% on a year over year basis. So we are seeing price acceleration really, really start to slow down. So we'll be watching that very carefully. I do think we're going to see a drop of between 3 and 5% for the year as a whole when it's all tallied. And what about unsold inventory? So we've talked about how tight the supply is. So in March, we had a 2.7-month supply of homes on the market. In April, it's 3.4 months. So you had a little bit of a turn with more new listings, and you had a big drop in terms of closing. So even though 3.4 months is still a tight supply market, it's not as tight as it was. In fact, it looks a lot like same number a year ago, right? A year ago, April, it's just this April, a lot fewer sales and a lot fewer prices. Now, the one other thing I just wanted to mention is the National Association of Realtors had their first virtual meeting this week. It just ended this morning, and they had some really great speakers, including Dr. Lawrence Yun, their chief economist, who has been very generous with me in terms of sharing survey and other data, and we share with him. So we both really treasure that, let's see what's going on.
Yeah.
Anyway, the forecast for NAR for this year is a 13.5% drop in sales. And again, this is nationwide, and a 1.3% actually increase in prices. So I think the takeaway here is, one of the truisms in real estate is it's local, it's location, it's local. And that will be true of this, with, again, some very strong overriding themes. And the takeaway in terms of the question everybody wants to know is, how long is this going to go on? That's really the $64,000 question. How soon can we put things back
Yeah.
together again? So I say plan for the worst and hope for the best. And I'll be back next Friday with hopefully some more always interesting news, and hopefully some more insightful news. So thank you, Deborah.
You bet. One of the things that came to my mind, Leslie, when you were sharing those statistics about the retail, right, the clothing, is how, I don't know how it is in Florida, but here locally, our women have been doing like virtual shopping with their favorite boutiques. So it's almost like our boutiques, the smaller, more focused female-owned organizations their customers are rallying, and they're shopping from outside the windows. They're like doing little fashion shows. I mean, it's pretty amazing how
I think
creative
that's
they are
great.
getting.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of what you were sharing, that the tech curious and savvy agents, the ones that are stepping into embracing technology, are the ones who are going to survive and potentially thrive in this season, because they're finding different streams of income, different ways to do their business and create more margin for what matters to them. So I think the
Right.
creativity,
They're finding a way. Yeah,
yeah,
they're
they're
finding a
finding a
way.
way. Exactly. I love that. I love that. And there are so many comments in the stream, Leslie, that the community is so truly and deeply and wholeheartedly loves you, loves your updates. Katie Lance was saying, hey, can we get Leslie on network news? So I think we should try to make that
Well, but
happen.
you've got me forever. So, and I will be back next Friday.
Awesome. Thank you so very much,
You're
Leslie. We
welcome.
look forward
Thanks
to
for
seeing that.
having me, everybody.
Bye, Hen. Bye. Okay, so now it's time for the wisdom segment, and I have in the green room waiting for me, Burton. Now, let me read to you about comma. This first sentence makes me a little verklempt, so forgive me if I get a little teary-eyed. Burton is a newly licensed broker. She is also a speaker, an adjunct professor, a philanthropist, a mentor, and a trainer who has a love for this industry. She loves to stay educated as well and always encourages others to do the same. I love what she wrote when she was sharing her heart for what we're going to talk about today. She said, although we live in a time of uncertainty, we need to be certain that one day we will get out and get through. Do you hear that? We will get out and get through. In the meantime, continue to work on your goals. Don't allow any situation to take your eyes off the goals. However, if you do need to adjust anything, adjust your plan. And she shared one of her favorite quotes, which is, a goal without a plan is just a dream. It's time to make our dreams a reality. So without further ado, I am going to bring Ms. Kama into the studio here, and ta-da, there she is. Yay, welcome. How does it feel
Yeah.
when I say newly licensed broker?
It still raises something in me, so I'm still excited.
I love it. I love it. Well, and you shared that you were working towards that on the WomanUP stage in the end of October. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I did it with a fight, but I did it.
That's right. You did it with a fight and you didn't give up.
Yeah, I did not give up. Did not give up.
That
Three times a charm. And I
that's right, right? That is resilience and persistence. You know,
absolutely.
resiliency is a term I keep hearing a lot of, being persistent, and really that the grit, and of course in my world moxie, you know, that those traits are so incredibly important right now.
Absolutely.
And you, right, one of your favorite topics to talk about, and what we decided on for today was to talk about how we do pursue our passions despite the obstacles that we're facing. So I have some questions I'd love to ask you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. The first one is, what obstacles have you had to face to get where you are now? So share with us a little bit about where you were and what you got through, and to get you to where you are today.
Sure. So I went through a really hard time. I was married at 19, and I went through about 12 years of control, domestic violence during my marriage, and so that was a huge obstacle that I had to endure. The beginning part of my adulthood. So it was definitely a tough time that I never thought in a million years that I would be a part of.
Wow. Well, let me start by saying I'm thankful you are on the other side of that.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank you.
so thankful. It does make you stronger, but I would, and I'm sure everyone who loves you would prefer for you have not gone through that. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that intimate story and that trial, because I think that so many women don't talk about it, right?
They
They
don't.
get through it and they don't talk about it. And there are a lot of women who are experiencing that right now who maybe never did before, because of the job loss and the alcohol consumption going like doubling overnight. And so I appreciate you sharing that, because I think that is a beacon of hope, right? That there
It
is life
is.
on the other side. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I always tell people to just remember, like, statistics are so high. 1 out of 4 women have been affected or are affected by domestic violence. at some point in their life. So you never know who you're dealing with. You never know why somebody has either a nasty attitude with you, or if they're very reserved. You just don't know. And some people hide it like I did. They hide it very, very well because it's just something, again, being a young adult, going through that, letting somebody know that you're allowing someone to abuse you. And when I say allowing, because that's what we do. We allow people to do things, and fear is an ugly thing, and fear will have you stuck in that situation. And that's what happened with me. It was fear that had me stuck in that situation, that basically told me that I couldn't do anything else but stay there and stay stuck, because there's nothing on the other side for me. And we had kids, and the best thing for me to do is just stay there and pretend to have this happy home. But I was miserable. I was absolutely, absolutely miserable, and nobody knew.
Right.
Nobody.
Well, and that's, what I have seen a lot of in the kind of the side conversations around this is finding the courage to ask how you're doing to the people who you are in deep relationship with. Don't wait to see it. In other words, like, ask, how are things going? How is your marriage right now? Do you feel safe? Like, ask the questions that you can, that they can open the door for them, right? Open the door for those conversations, because the shame is heavy, right? The shame is very heavy in there. You don't want people to know. And you actually talk about the negative self-talk that you really had to kind of crawl yourself out of. So what are your tips and tools that you use to really help you slay that talk, tame it, if you
Let me tell you, my favorite tool is my mirror. To be able to look at the mirror, or look in the mirror, and tell myself that I'm not that person that I may feel at the time, because it was so much negative talk in the relationship that I began to believe it. And so I heard someone say, I believe it was Les Brown, he said that it takes 17 times for somebody to say something positive before you believe it. But it takes one time for somebody to say something negative and you believe it right off the bat. So I began to look at myself, and I would just tell myself, just even now, girl, you got this, or you're better than that, or, just things that I wish somebody would tell me right now in that moment, or something I would say to somebody else. I began to look at myself in the mirror, and that's actually what helped me pull out of this depression, because I did go through a short battle of depression for a couple of years, where I lost clients. I didn't want to be around people. I just lost me completely. But as I began to look at myself often and tell myself I love myself, tell myself I was beautiful, because I didn't believe those things. I kept saying there's something wrong with me. I don't love myself enough. And so I just began to do that. So my best friend is definitely my mirror, because one thing I know, it'll be there at all times. And I can go look and talk to that girl in the mirror to just pull her out.
Amen. That's so good. That is so good, Kama. In my practice, when I work with clients who, I work with high performing women in leadership positions, and they are the same thing, right? When you are in a situation where you are, whether it's a partner or a parent or, anyone who's in the home with you that is not speaking life into you, and who, even worse, would maybe speaking death over you, right? Like, really, you are your person, you are your safe place. And it's not, we can't always control the first thought that we think, because we've created patterns, but we can control the second. And I use one of those dry erase markers on the bathroom mirror in our home, in our master bathroom. I have one, and my husband has one, and we write notes for each other on the sides. I write on his side, he writes on mine. Sometimes he draws flowers, sometimes it's scripture. But we've really tried to utilize the mirror as well, right? It's like, that is one thing that most of us go to every single day, whether we're, simply brushing our teeth or actually getting ready, to be on camera or go out in the world. So I think that's an awesome tip. There is a question for you, if you're open to sharing it, is what was the thing what was the event that you just said, I'm done? Like, oh,
Was enough. Many people may or may not know this. Some of my close friends know it. I don't talk about it much, but I actually remarried my ex-husband for a second time. The first time we divorced, I think it was more him. He kept telling me to file for divorce. I went ahead and did it. When I stepped away, I felt more empowered, but then at the same time, I started to feel lonely. And so I ended up marrying him again because I wanted my family back. My husband was the only man I had known, and been with, and so there was a lot of ties there. And so when I remarried him the second time, it was less of the physical, but more of the verbal. And he had a girlfriend. And so I was like, what in the world are you doing, Kamala? Like, you're really accepting this? Because I picked him up sometimes from her house when he was mad and to bring him home, hoping that we can make this happy home. And then he would leave. And so after a while, I had to have that talk, and I prayed literally, and I said, you know what, Lord, I don't think this is where you want me to be. So I began to pray, and I said, take this feeling away from me because I don't think that's where I'm supposed to be. Seeing him go back and forth, but it was this one particular day when I just was fed up. It was Father's Day, and Father's Day cleaned up the house, made sure all the laundry was done. I bought cupcakes, even though he wasn't like a sweet person. That was more for me than him, but made this meal for him, and we were only remarried. Let's see, June. We got married March 29th of 2009, and he didn't show up at home. He didn't come home. He kept saying, "I'm coming home." We had a gift. Me and his children. The only children he had was with me. Well, he has another son, but he was older. But I'm saying with me, we were here. He didn't show up, and I'm thinking, okay, it's one thing not to show up for me, but you're not showing up. And this is Father's Day. We're ready. My kids kept saying, is Daddy coming home? Is Daddy coming home? So that even now just kind of brings something up that hurt me. And I said, now you're putting someone and someone's family over your own. And by then I was fed up. I said, enough was enough. It wasn't even the physical. It wasn't the verbal. It was the fact that he had, to me, had given up on his children. And that's when I just had enough.
wow. Well, and what I hear so often in these kind of scenarios is that mama bear is she is the one that finally kind of puts the foot down and says, I've had enough, right? Like you do what you do because you're making those choices, but your kids are right there along with you. So, congratulations on taking that really brave step. And thank you again so much for opening up the kimono and sharing that. I think when we walk through life and we are really authentic, we share these things, it does help us not only personally process it, but it opens the conversation for others who are hiding, right? They feel brave. So I know there is someone or many who are watching this right now or the replay, who you're giving them courage. And that is such a beautiful gift. I'm so grateful to you. So the choices you make, right? We hear a lot about, should we feel regret? Should we not feel regret? Should we shit on ourselves? So how do you deal with the decisions, the marrying this person and going through these and trying to build a life and stopping and then starting again? And, how do you work through all of that?
Well, I'll be honest with you, just talking about the regrets portion of it, I battle with myself. Do I regret what I went through? Because I wonder where would I have been? And the reason I say that, because real estate was definitely not in my vision when I was younger. I wanted to be a licensed manicurist, but and overall I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. Like that was my goal, was a stay-at-home mom. So when I look back, I wonder, I don't know if I so much regret going through it, because I always say this: if I didn't go through what I've been through, then, because of what I went through, I'm able to share my story with others and hopefully be able to save some more lives. And so if I had to be that sacrifice for someone to go through, and I thank God I got through, because
You and me
Okay.
both. You and me both.
I'm trying not. I lost. Never met her before, but I lost my aunt at when I wasn't even born. It was 1977. My mom was pregnant with me, and she was killed in a murder suicide by her boyfriend. And so that was my mom's biggest fear of like, who are you with? Make sure, I don't want to get those calls and things. And so my middle name is her. And so I do this because, and I have a picture of her that my mom gave to me when my grandmother had passed away, and it's in the home when people walk in and see it. And I said, if I can be that voice, because she never had that voice. So, I'm able to speak, now I can speak and I'm okay with speaking. Yes, I get emotional because I'm human, right? But if I can share stories with people, because I never got a chance to get to know my aunt, all because someone literally loved her to death. And I never want someone to so-called love me to death. And so I don't regret it, because I have my children and they are my world. And then I'm able to share my story, where there's so many women that has actually talked to me and asked me not to speak, but you can share with other people, but I don't want to share. And thank you. And that, so if I can be that person to help somebody else, then it's hard to say that I live in regret. And I don't even want to say, and I don't want to gloat on it like, oh, I've been through this thing, because that's definitely not something you want to gloat on. But I still have my times where I lay in bed at night. I just had a couple of months ago, before we were safer in place, where I walked home one day. It was 11 o'clock at night. I was coming home from an event. It was a church event. I got in a vendor booth. I was selling my books, and I walked up to my door, and I almost couldn't get out of my car. It was like 11 o'clock at night because I stayed late. And I just sat in my car and I began to cry, because it came to me the times that my ex-husband would stalk me. He's literally standing in front of my home. And so I remember I looked around and I texted my son to make sure he opened the door, and I ran into the home and I just began to sob and I wept, because it just brought back these memories. So I still go through things, don't get me wrong. But again, going back to that self-talk, to say, come on, he's not here, meaning he's living still, but he's not even in the area I'm in, and I'm okay. And then after that, I was able to pray about it, go to sleep, wake up, and I was fine. But again, just still going through that. No regrets for sure, but just something to help somebody kind of get through, as I still get through some of the pain.
Well, wow. There are so many people who are saying, bless you, thank you. Like, lives are changing right now with what you're sharing, Kama. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love to refer to what you're talking about is you survived through your testimony, and now you're thriving through that story. And it's such a miracle when women can go through what you've gone through, when you can go through something like that, when you can look back at your family history and talk about your auntie who you didn't get to meet, and you can find strength in getting you through what you're getting through. And this is something that is very, very powerful in the feminine energy that any and every human being walks this planet with, right? Like, we were created for all of these emotions, and we were created to be resilient, powerful beings. And to see it shining through you now is such an incredible gift. And again, such an inspiration to those people who, I think right now we're all thinking, who do we need to go out and ask? Who do we need to touch base with right now that maybe we kind of had a little intuition, like the way somebody grabbed a friend's arm, or a look or something that might have triggered us in the past, that we just thought, oh, it's no big deal. They're so happy. Like, let's check in with those people so that we're going through this together, and we can support those. And
Absolutely.
wow.
Yeah. And it's important that you stay connected. I was talking to a childhood friend of mine who didn't want me to marry him. And I had a lot of people saying, don't marry him. So I did get some warning, but I just didn't follow. but she had stopped talking to me for a while. And she said she kind of felt like something was going on, but she was like trying to figure out why was I not connecting. And so just looking at those signs of your friends who are, you know, one minute you guys are besties, next thing you know, they're barely answering your phone. And that's why I tell women too, when you get into these relationships, be careful not to lose yourself, because we get so attached to someone, and now all of our time is spent with this person, and we forgot that we built relationships over here. And to me, healthy means, yes, you can talk to one another and still spend that time. But yeah, she stopped being my friend, but she was like, I'm sorry, I just didn't know. But we were young, so it's not like I'm going to say, well, you should have paid attention.
Yeah.
But I want her to know either. But maybe if we would have had more conversations, I probably would have opened up just a little more, to try to figure out a way out sooner than later. So just
right.
to that.
And that's, you know, I think that you're absolutely right. You know, shaking off the shame and play and the shame
Yes.
of blaming someone else, right?
Absolutely.
You know, you should have, I think that, you know, regardless of age, but in particular when we're in our 20s, we do have this desire to have this perfect picture of a life.
Mhm.
And it's embarrassing. It's
It
embarrassing
is.
to say I made a choice that I never thought would turn out this way.
Absolutely.
And the you know, I talked about this a couple of times when I've shared about the, you know, the lioness pride, right? Like those people, that really core group of women we surround ourselves with.
Right.
When we have moments like this where we can really get connected to people because we have a bit more time, like it's time to ask those deeper questions. It's time to hop on a Zoom call one-on-one and say, what is going on? And
Yeah.
and who haven't you heard from? And who do we need to do you know, pop by and leave a little something on their front porch that, you know, shows them that we love them? Because that is when you're on the other side of things like this, when you are in your thriving stage, it's important to look back and hold your hand out and say, I need to help another sister along. And so that is what you're doing. That's what you are inspiring people to do. Again, sending so much love is coming your way. Your testimony is definitely going to save someone. It's going to create a lifeline. So I'm so grateful that you're here. Let's talk about the things that will help people move forward. You know, you've talked about how you felt silent and alone, and you really used your mirror to help pull you out of those when you felt stupid or you felt like you made the wrong choice. But what's one thing that people can do to move forward and move into that pursuing of their dreams, regardless of where they might be, but where they might have just left?
Sure. So what I did, I'll just tell you what I did. I began to find myself. So what I would do, just going back to the mirror for sure, beginning to discover who Kama was. As a young child, I was very outgoing, always had a ton of friends, always doing something. My mom will tell you even to this day, Kama's always volunteering for something. As a matter of fact, she said, I better not hear you running for anything else. But I was like, well, then I guess we won't be talking about that for a while. But what I did, and what I definitely encourage you all to do, is take time for yourself. I go to lunch by myself. I'll go to dinner by myself. I'll go to a movie. I'll sit down and just kind of have some me time, taking walks, just kind of discovering who I am, and or rediscovering who I am, and then also trying new things. Like, I wasn't a reader. I'm going to tell you the honest truth. I would not read. And it wasn't until a few years ago I began to get into different positions and leadership positions, and everybody's reading but me. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't have time for that. But I began to make time. So what I did was I started, doing things that I would not normally do. Again, just taking time for me, because I was giving so much of my time and my energy to somebody else. And I think I knew that person more than I knew myself. So I had to do the same thing with me. I had to go shopping. Was not my favorite thing, not that it is now, but I wouldn't buy clothes for myself. And then I said, you know what? Let me try that. And then I began to try on clothes and ask questions. And if anybody knows me, I will ask 50 million questions about something because I need to understand. And a lot of people don't like it, but hey, that's common. That's just who I am. But that's just me. And that's the only way I grow. So just really taking that time for you and not feeling like you always have to have everybody surrounding you. It's just very, very important to find yourself, which I thought that was the dumbest term in the world. What do you mean find yourself? You're standing right there, right? But you have to find you. I lost who Kama was. So I really had to find myself by going back to those things that I love to do. I love to eat. So that's why I take myself to lunch, dinner, and breakfast often. So I just get that. And just from there, I literally enjoy me time. I do. I enjoy time with myself. So I definitely encourage people to do things like that because that's what I did. And I believe that will free up your mind from a lot of different negative things, and you begin to center things more, and you start seeing things just in a different light, because I was seeing everything negative. Then I started seeing things positive, and it helped me become more aware of my surroundings, which is how I started my mentorship program. There was a need, and because my mind was clear and I wasn't all woe is me, I was able to go out and help another group of people and another group of young people.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about so you've shared this very important story for others to hear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've bravely shared it. But you also have this, I mean, the fire that is inside you, and this topic of pursuing your passions, even while you're going through this. So you're recovering, you're putting your life back together, you're building your empire from, rising from the ashes, and you're giving back. Like you're not focused only on comma. You're thinking, how can I help other people? So share with us that when you did say, I'm pursuing these passions, I want to be a mentor, I want to be an adjunct professor, I want, like, what? Share how what did that look like? How did that progression happen?
When I was about 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I was sitting down one day, and again, my me time, and it came to me of all of these things that I had started when I was married, like when I was going through this hard time. And I went and became a licensed manicure. So I fulfilled that dream. I became a licensed realtor. I became a notary public. I went back to school and got my AA, got my bachelor's degree in business management. So I started looking back and thinking, oh my gosh. And during that time, there was a lot of doubt coming to me about, can you do this? Or why are you going to school? You're just trying to follow my dream. And why are you a realtor? All this stuff. But I kept going. So I started thinking about all of these things, and I'm going through all of these different situations. I just realized, if I'm going through a hard time and people don't know, how do I help somebody else? So I was driving my daughter to school one day, or we were coming home from school, and she was like, Mom, it's just so much drama at our school, and I wish you would talk to the girls like you talk to me, because their parents don't do that. And we would have these conversations almost daily because there was so many different fights, right? We're talking, and then I was like, I have to do something. So I was like, okay, I talked about doing a girls club. I just didn't know to what level. And then I heard these statistics. And I tell you all, when you're listening to Leslie, you're listening to Lawrence, you're listening to all of these different, people in our, all this data and this information in our business, data doesn't lie. And because of the data, it's what drives us to do what we do, right? So I was hearing that there were about 60 fights at my daughter's school this year. Never happened. Like I moved in this area because I thought the school was good. 60 fights, 75% of the fights were girls. Well, from there, I was like, you know what? I got to do something. I literally sent an email to the assistant principal in tears saying, look, I need to do something to help these young girls. And I figured this, with what I've been through, I told her all it comes from is not being guided the correct way in some instances, self-doubt, lack of self-worth, lack of self-love. I want to start this here. So from there, it was because of my experience, everything I went through, I knew that I had to do that. And then to help someone else, that's how that started. But with my professor, becoming an adjunct professor, when I say that was a fluke, I literally, when I got out of school, I wanted to teach either an entrepreneur. I wanted to teach entrepreneurship. And so I went to go apply, found out I had to have a master's, don't have a master's. And so I was like, okay, one day I'll go back and get my master's. And that was what my lifelong dream, right? So I'm at an event, and the question, it was a round table at my local community college. And they said, what's going on in your market? And mind you, I didn't know what to say. Like, what's going on in your market that you can help us as we build these different programs? And we had all kind of people around the table, from city council to different people from the different colleges. So all of these prestigious people. And I felt like it was little comma, I don't know what to say, surprisingly. So, and so from that, I ended up talking. It came to me because I'm a Toastmaster. So it just like popped in my head. This is what you say. Just from what I told them, the person came to me and said, are you interested in becoming an adjunct professor? I was like, oh my gosh, absolutely. So I said, but I have a bachelor's degree. She said, it doesn't matter. She said, you just need 3 years of experience. I said, well, I have 12. And so from there, that's how I came. And I just tell you all those stories because it starts with knowing your why. It starts with writing out your goals, and it starts off with a vision board. And trust me, I have 4 vision boards that I look at, 2 particular, but that I look at every single morning. When I wake up in the morning, I meditate on them. I look at myself in those different positions. And just as life is happening and opportunity is coming, when opportunity knocks, I bust that door wide open. And that's how I've been able to just do all of the things that I do by giving back, because there was times that I didn't have people giving to me or talking to me or saying anything. I was overlooked I've been overlooked so many times that I said, you know what, well, if I can get an opportunity, I'm going to take it. And I did. And that's how I'm doing all of the things that I'm doing.
I love that. I love that. It is the phoenix rising from the ashes, right? It is. And we've heard a few times over the last, few wisdom segments about vision boards, and, it's such an important part of the success journey of so many people. So do you, let's get inside the mind of Kama. Do you pull out magazines and cut stuff? Do you print stuff off the internet? Like, how do you build your vision board? Is it all digital now? Is it physical?
No, I have. So I put together vision board parties too, and I teach my girls to do vision boards. So I have a ton of magazines, and I do the magazines, the scissors, and a board from the 99-cent store. So it costs you a little of nothing to do that. So I literally go through the magazines, go through them, and kind of see where am I. But what I learned to do first was write out my goals, and then when I write out my goals of what I want, it made it that much easier.
Yes.
Vision boards it shouldn't take you an hour to do a vision board. It should take you hours, because you're really searching. You want to make sure that what you plan to do in life, and it's not just, you can do it for a month, a year, or like I look at where do I want to be? Eventually I want to be married. So I have an engagement ring on there with my wedding cake and being proposed. All that is on there. So I look at where I want to be. To learn long term, and I just dig, and I love quotes, I love sayings, so I take those. Matter of fact, it's funny, Leslie had a slideshow I watched her a couple of weeks ago, and it was this big fish. It was a big bowl and a small bowl with this little fish jumping into it.
Yes.
And she had that on there, and that was on my vision board from 2 years ago. And so I was like, great minds think alike.
Yes.
I dig deep because I really look. I don't want to just cut and paste, like literally. I literally want to look and be able to do that. And just taking that time made me think like, this is the time I want to take to achieve those goals as well. Take my time and go through it carefully, so that way I'm not just jumping at something. It's like it's here and it's gone. You want to take your time with that.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love it so much. Those are such great tips. Okay, so before we get to your last words of wisdom, what's the best way for the community here to connect with you, Kama? Because I'm guessing from all the comments in here that there are some women who are going to want to reach out and chat with you. So what works best for you?
So you can add me on Facebook. I am at 5,000 friends. So as people come in, I start deleting people that I don't know, like really, really know. So add me on Facebook, definitely inbox me. You can I'm under, you can look under comma Burton, comma Thomas will come up, but the at sign is at comma Burton. I'm also on Instagram at comma speaks.
Yes.
And then you can email me at commaspeaks.com, or go to my commaspeaks.com and fill out the information. So if you just put comma speaks, I'll pop up.
Awesome. Well, and I know that you have a book that you're loving right now. One of the books that you wrote, I feel in love.
Fell in love.
I fell in love with his promises, and they can get that at commaspeaks.com, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that is my first book I wrote. Absolutely.
I love that. I love it so much. And here's the thing, for those of you who are enjoying what Calm has to say, who are feeling connected to her, a great way to be able to give back to her is grab her book. Send it to someone. It's $14.99. Come on, that's like coffees. That's just like 2 coffees.
We're saving, right? We're saving.
We're saving. Yeah, exactly. Let's stimulate the economy by buying books, not lattes.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we say goodbye, what's the one thing that's on your heart that maybe you didn't get a chance to say yet, or that has kind of popped up for you in our conversation today? Look in the camera and speak into the community.
Absolutely. Well, I would just encourage everyone that despite of what they've gone through, despite of what they're going through, just know that you have purpose. You weren't put on this earth just to walk it. You weren't put on this earth just to fill up space. There's plenty of people out in the world, but we all have purpose. Don't feel embarrassed. Don't feel shame of what you've been through. Don't be afraid to cry it out. Don't be afraid to laugh it out. Don't be afraid to talk it out. Know that you are not alone. I felt alone for many years in my situation. And when I now realize all of the great people that I have around me, it's a whole new world for me. So I know we're at home, we're shelter in place. Take this time for you. Take this time to discover you. Read a book, write a book. There's something in you, but pursue your passion, because I know we all have it despite your obstacles.
Oh, woo! I can't wait to go listen to the replay of this. Already, I can't wait to pop in there. Thank you so much, Kama. As I said so many times already, that you're probably tired of hearing it. Well, maybe you're not. The community is just loving on you. They are so thankful. They are inspired. They want to say thank you. I know that you're going to hop in the comments and kind of take a look and see who said what. I will definitely make sure to get this show and the show notes up onto the blog, as well as Leslie's information. For those of you who haven't signed up to get the blog posts, or who aren't going to IamWomanUp.com/blog, we are starting to leverage that platform more from the blogging perspective, so that those of us who don't spend a lot of time on Facebook, who might miss inspiring conversations like this one with Kama, that we're expanding that reach there. So check out the blog, see the past episodes, see the show notes, all of Kama's content, all of her contact information, the link to her book will be there. So like I said, please love on her, support her, and grab a book for yourself, send one to a friend, and let's keep the love and empowering and supporting of each other continuing. So thank you so much, everyone who joined us today. We will see you next week, 2 times, once for the book club on Wednesday, the 20th at 2 p.m. and then Friday at 2 p.m. for the weekly updates. So we'll see you then. Bye, everyone.